it's got the fast processor and a lot of gigs of RAM. It's a good box.
Good deal.
Okay, so what we're showing here this morning, we're going to do a quick little trade recap, and we're going to talk a little bit about, just very quickly, about trading reversals, which of course we had today right around the high energy time. But first of all, there was a couple of questions about where some trades set up, and I want to show on the Russell here. It was a little cleaner than EMD, which is over here, mid-cap 400 futures, which at the same time kind of had a box that looked more or less like this. And you can see that the prevailing trend was sort of down, even though the Dow futures, the S&P futures were up most of the morning. You did have this earlier sell-off right in here. Then right before the open, you went into this little consolidation patch like such. It was pretty tight on the Russell. 6:30, 9:30 Eastern is the open of the trading here in the U.S. So that would have been right about here on the Russell. Oops. And 6:30 on EMD would have been right about in here somewhere. There's the open of the market right there. So now coming out of this consolidation patch, about 10-15 minutes into the session, you see that you got a nice breakdown here on the Russell, very cleanly taking out this pivot, the 0.8 pivot. You came all the way down here to a fresh low down here around this 2350 area. Likewise, at the same time, your EMD trade set up under this 0.8 pivot at 84.40, and you punch down to just a few ticks under the 81 swing down here. Now, what was interesting was if you were watching YM, which is the Dow futures, the YM, if you had that chart up, was very weak. It had already broken down about 20-30 ticks, so it kind of led the market down. And so we had a couple of nice shorts here. Now, high energy time was, we normally look for a couple of things around 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 Eastern. You're either generally going to get a market trend continuation or possible reversal. Now, I'm just going to show a couple of things that you could have watched on your chart. I'm not going to do all these, but I'm going to show a couple of them. Notice that right down in here and over in here on EMD, that this swing low did not take out that swing low. See how these swing lows did not take out that swing low? So we always talk about market reversals. How do you know when a market is reversing? Let's just look at a couple of swings real quick. It takes at least 3 points for a trend, right? So we're going to just look at a couple of points here. You got a swing there, you got a swing there. I'm not going to do them all. You get the idea. See this here? So you put down a fresh low, you came up. This low did not take out that low. So in our mind's eye here, high energy time, 7 o'clock, possible reversal, yes? Same down here. Here's a swing, here's another one, here's another one. We're putting in, what are we starting to do here? A little bit higher highs and higher lows, right? We're thinking possible reversal here, yes? Now, notice right in here on the Russell, you come up right to this pivot, and then you pull back. And then you have a little swing that you put in right here. This was, if you had not gotten long from down in here, this was the entry right in here. See the swing just above the pivot? You should have placed a buy order at 26.50 plus or minus a tick right in there. That same level happened here on EMD. Notice you came right through this pivot right here to the higher pivot. You were putting in higher highs and higher lows, and you punched right through 84.40. Remember us saying that number in the room live? Remember it? 84.40? Look for a break, and sure enough, you pull back to the higher pivot, continuing to get your higher highs and higher lows. So we pretty much confirmed the trend reversal from down to up by this point, right? Higher highs and higher lows, continuing up, right? And you should have put your buy a tick or two right above here. Now notice on, you got a little bit of divergence between the two in the fact that EMD punched right up to its swing. Remember we said, look, watch this little swing here at 97.70. This was the high of the morning, which it has not broken yet, right here. See it? Just hitting its head at that pivot. Just hitting its head. Remember we were saying in the room, take some profits up here, tighten your stop. That's the reason why. Not only is the swing high after the open, but you got this strong 3/8 pivot. Now, interesting, that same level on the Russell is over here. See the swing level right in there, 29.50. In the case of the Russell, it actually came through it by just a few ticks. See, here was your long entry, punch through. Here was your fresh high, hit the 2/8 pivot, and now you're pulling back. Now you're pulling back. So you more than likely would have stopped out of this trade by now. Both trades, actually. All right, so that's the Russell Futures TF 4-range chart, and that's the EM trades. Any questions on these? Because I did want to show a quick pop over to another screen and show the dollar index and 6E trades using the oracles this morning. I'm going to flip to another screen if there's no questions. I don't see any. Okay, good. Let's come over and look at the dollar and 6E because we had a couple of good trades with the oracles. Let's go ahead and come over to screen 3 here. Hold on a second, please. Are we ready? All right, here we go. Let's come over to screen 3 real quick. All right, here's screen 3. Should see the dollar index and 6E. Do we see the dollar and 6E?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. Now, what I wanted to show was this. In the European session, which I think one of our business partners, Rich, had a European trading room open overnight. I want to show something here real quick in the European session. It was a couple of nice trades using the oracles. European session starts at midnight Pacific, so this line over here on the left and this line over here on the right would have been the beginning of the European session. And that's when we tend to see the most movement on the currencies. Notice right after the open, right here of the European session, we get a sharp sell-off on the dollar. Oracles dropping very precipitously here, going red. And then notice we flip on the dollar and start heading higher, right over in here, about an hour into the session. And this is not unusual to see. The corresponding move, of course, we expect a mirror image of 6E from the dollar. You got the punch higher, you got the green oracles. Market peaks out about 1 hour into the European session, rolls over, and 6E just falls off the map. Beautiful short trades. Right in here, oracles flip, turn red, down they go, confirming the down move. I would bet, I was not in that European session with the live room, but I would bet money they took those trades. They took those trades. I'm sure they did. Now, what's interesting here coming into the U.S. session is that we get a reversal. Notice on the dollar over here, here's the current present time. Here's the dollar sitting right above this pivot. Remember we were saying in the room, watch that 79 area? That's because you got this little weak stop support, so you can't get through it. Now that corresponding area on 6E is over here. Let me blow this up so you can see this a little bit better. Let's talk about what's going on with 6E and the dollar right now. So here we get, notice on 6E right around 5 o'clock going into 6 o'clock Pacific. This is sort of the tail end of the European session. You get this little double top. And notice up here you could not get through this pivot swing right here. It's 79.29 and change right there. See it? A little double top, portending some weakness. Notice on the oracle we were starting to get a sell-off right here. This was telling you, hey, there's weakness in this market. Start thinking about flipping and taking the short side right here. See it? See the oracle's weakening? Notice that you had the complete opposite happening on 6E. 6E's oracles were strengthening and heading higher. Notice the pattern heading up. Now, what I wanted to show was this. This was a beautiful hook trade right around 7 o'clock Pacific, right in here. On the dollar, it looked like this. You get a yellow bar probe, right? We teach how to, we show you how to take these trades. Rolls over, oracles turn red, and down they go. And correspondingly, at the same time around 7 o'clock, we get a nice hook trade up on the 6E. See right here? See, she comes down through these pivots, finds a higher level of support right in here. Trying to put that line in there. Hold on a second. Here's our hook. Here's our probe trade. Come right under the pivot and up we go. Oracle's hook, This is when we say the term hook, this is what we're talking about right here. See the hook? See how it hooks? Comes right down, just sort of touches the zero line and then heads back up. This is the telltale sign to get long and buy the market, and in the case of the dollar, you'd be shorting the dollar over here. Shorting support and target the next pivot. You can trade pivot to pivot in the direction of the trend. A lot of our traders do that every morning, all European session. It's a very good strategy, pivot to pivot in the direction of the trend. Now, you can see right here that for now, it's hard to say what's going to happen. You're starting to get a little curve up on the oracles. You can see the oracles on 6E are rolling over. You could make the case, perhaps, on 6E at least for now, that this could be, in fact, a double top setting up right here. Starting to lock up a little bit here, Gary. Hope I don't lose it. Right in here. See the little double top right up in this pivot? See how she couldn't get through it? See these little swings? This is what we look for, right? If this, in fact, was continuing higher in the short term, these little peaks should be heading higher through taking out more pivots, and your oracle would be heading higher. But, in fact, the peaks are heading down, and you need to hold these higher levels of support for the uptrend to continue. Likewise, the dollar, obviously, you can see here, at least for now, could not take that pivot swing out at 79. And it's bouncing very strongly here. So what we look for now is the difference between a deep probe retracement and a trend change is that if this is in fact is a deep probe, it could come up to the 2/8 pivot, hit its head, roll over, and that would be a potential shorting opportunity. The oracles would come up and hook, come up near the zero line and hook and roll over. That would be a short on the dollar. Likewise on the 6E trade over here, what you would look for is pulling into a support area, which it's doing right now. You look for a hook on the oracles and a resumption of buying to get in long. So that's what you're looking for going forward on 6E and the dollar. All in all, some good trades today. We had, I don't have the crude oil chart, but we had some good trades on crude. NASDAQ was quite the runner because Apple's up almost 10 points today. That was a good little trading session today. Even though we didn't have hardly any news, there wasn't any news. We still got a good session. Rome asking a question here, how do you compare Murray math levels with swings? Well, what we want to do, Rome, is we want to use the pivots, and normally they correspond to some swing levels. Sometimes they're not right on. For instance, in this double top on the dollar, you can see that it was pretty close within a few ticks of the major support resistance 4/8 pivot here, 29 and change. See it? Likewise down here, for instance. I mean, they're not always spot on with respect to support and resistance, but normally they're pretty close. See this swing overnight here? The reversal at 1 o'clock in the European session corresponded with that low on the dollar. Likewise, when 6E came here, where was he at European session? Now, see, in some cases you have very tightly bound pivots, and sometimes it'll go above and below it, and that makes trading a little bit tougher, a little more challenging because now you're beyond the level of pivots. But what you can do if that happens is simply measure the distance between the pivots, and you can come in here and simply put a horizontal line in where you approximate where another pivot would be. You can do that when you get beyond the pivot levels. That's very helpful in seeing other support and resistance levels. And you can also look back a little further. That's what we use the 12 range chart for. Support and resistance and trend direction. All right. All in all, pretty good morning. Trading reversals, market reversals. It's 7 o'clock, 10 Eastern, around a high energy time. I'm seeing a note here, Dow breaking 13,000. Looks like they just want to run these markets up, don't they?
They do. Just think by just what you've drawn on that chart, too, how easy something like Line Trader, William was saying earlier, for instance, he studied 20 webinars over the weekend, so he must have been a busy guy. But Line Trader on just those two trades you showed right there would more than pay for anything. A person could literally make a living right off of that.
Yeah, let's just talk about. That's a good point, Gary. Before we finish the recap here, let's talk about just some approximate levels here. Let's say, for instance, that you shorted the dollar. I don't know. Let's say you got filled somewhere in here, 79.16. And you covered down here, round number, around this pivot somewhere. Let's call it, I don't know, 7902. Say you got 7903. 13 times 2 is 20, was that 13 times 2, 26 times 5, about $130 on that trade. That doesn't sound like much, but if you'd bought 6E at the same time, now that's $12.50 a tick. Let's say you didn't buy it until it broke, I don't know, let's say you didn't get filled until up here somewhere, 46. So you got long on this candle right there, 46-ish, 32.46. And say you got out, I don't know, maybe not the top, say you got out around this pivot. Call it round number 69.70. What is that, 46 to 70? 24 ticks times 12.50, just round numbers, it's about $300, but some change. So here, let's say you took the long on the 6E, you made 3.25, 3.50, and you shorted the dollar, you made 100 and a quarter. There's almost $500. 2 trades. That's all you took. $500. Let's come back over here. I just want to recap the equity trades real quick and look at those to summarize before we wrap. Let's say, for instance, that you missed this short trade here. Let's say that you just, you didn't have your sell in here, but just to see what it was worth approximately. Let's say you got filled on this bar right here short at about 27.70-ish. Right there, that bar you got short, and you covered it down here, I don't know, 24, call it 24.70. What is that, 30 ticks? $10 a tick? This short alone would be $300. Just that trade right there, that trade alone would be $300. Now let's suppose you missed that, and you took the long here at, I don't know, 26.50. So you got filled on this candle right in here, 26.50-ish. And say you took it out when it came back through the pivot, 29.50. What is that, 30, well, another 30 ticks. 2 trades on the Russell, 30 ticks down, 30 ticks back up. There's $600 right there. I think that's a pretty good morning for most people. I mean, we talk about having profit goals, and you had about the same thing on EMD, not quite as much. You had probably 20, 25 ticks on that drop, and I'd guess there's that about 20 ticks up here, so maybe 400 on the EMD chart. I guess what we're trying to say here is you don't need to take a lot of trades in the morning. You really don't. You don't have to feel nervous and pressured to jump in and take something and sweaty palms and nervous in the stomach. You just simply look at your charts, look for logical entry spots. We try to help see those live in the room, right? And then just pull the trigger, put your line trader in, let it manage the targets and stops or manage the targets yourself. It doesn't take a lot of trades to make some good coin trading these futures in the morning. It really doesn't. Yeah, Rob, caffeine, coffee trading, drink your espresso.
Exactly. Just like that 6E trade. See, we were watching the equities moving like crazy in oil, and we missed calling the 6E yellow bar. But even getting on that, right about your time, about 740-ish, see that hammer candle just came down and kissed those dots. You could see at about 740 something your time.
Oh, you're talking about this little retracement right here. This one right here?
Yeah, that's a trade. I had missed the yellow bar, but I thought, shoot, that looks like a good area again.
Right? Yeah, resumption of buying happened when it came right back up through the pivot. This is what we say when we start talking about pivot to pivot in the direction of the trend. Of course, you can see the prevailing trend at this point was up. Oracle's green and strong. Little hook here. And then right as it dipped through on this bar right here was your re-entry right there. Right there. Popped up through pivot 1, pivot 2. If you had multiples on, you would have peeled one here, peeled another here, and trailed the stop. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't look like much, but, it went from, 60 to 75, 15 times 12.5 is what, almost $200. That's just one contract. I mean,
right.
Had 2, could have been more than that, double that. Yeah, it doesn't, it's kind of deceptive when you look at some of these swings. You say, well, it doesn't look like it really moved that much, but you start doing the math, 15, 20, 30 ticks times 10, 12.50 a tick, you're talking about $300-400 trades. You just need to pull the trigger and get a couple of those a morning, really, and you got yourself a good trading session. All right, good. Any final questions before we wrap? We don't have a webinar tonight. Tomorrow we have the 2 rooms. the room here hosted by Gary and Rich with that set up, and then we got the educational room over there that I host in the morning tomorrow. And we do have a webinar tomorrow night, 5 o'clock Pacific. So, you know the saying, nicely green, turn off the machine. If you've made some good coin trading this morning, don't plow it back in. You really want to, the market might very well chop around a little bit. Look at the retracement on the equities. You could get quite a bit of chop now as these markets settle into what they want to do. Notice that you've come back into the range on the Russell. See back here, you're checking the bottom end of it here at this swing. Look at EMD. It's come all the way to the bottom end of its little trading range. Got to be really careful chasing the market around in here. Now, it could go sideways for another couple hours. So bank the coin, nicely green, turn off the machine. Any final questions on our recap here?